Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3. Let's get some more. Have it in. Get some more. Let's get into it.
Well, hello, everyone. So I had a hot finger. It jumped it twice. I couldn't do anything about it. So
amateur.
Yeah, I know. So thank you, everyone, for being here, and welcome to my Whiskey Den, your favorite public access whiskey review show where craft whiskey is king. This evening, we are talking to Fred Swanson and Adam Casey about Distill America 16, which is going on May 18th in Madison, Wisconsin. And if you've seen our show, you know we absolutely love this event. So we're looking forward to hear about what's going on new changes, some things of that nature. But before we go any further, Mike, do you want to tell people about the Bar Cart Co-op?
Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking, you know what I really want to do right now is I want to tell people about Bar Cart Co-op.
Well, I know you're waiting for it, so I couldn't hold off any longer.
I got one job. Bar Cart Co-op is a collection of friends who create content for the whiskey and other distilled spirits public. Bar Cart Co-op YouTube and Facebook pages have information about upcoming and past special shows, which happen about every quarter, from blind tastings, distiller panels, and discussions of special collaborations and unique usage of unique grains. We also have Distiller Talk, which is the oldest show in the group, hosted by Alan Bishop and Christy Atkinson. It's a conversation with people from distilleries and distillery adjacent that gets into deep and sometimes off the rails and back again discussions with their interviews. New episodes arrive at the end of the work week. And if you don't find that to be nerdy enough, you should check out One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute, which is where Alan Bishop answers any questions about distilling and often puts them to the test. It could be individual grains, entire mash bills, equipment, or methodology. New episodes come out randomly, so subscribe to that. And then we have the Bourbon Turntable, where they mix the love of music with the love of whiskey. They have conversations with musicians, writers, distillery folks, and common folks like us about music and whiskey. It releases every Wednesday on all your platforms, including YouTube. Upcoming, there is an encore show this week. Next week will be James Gerard from Barrel House. And then after that is Boone Froggatt of the band Otis. So check those out. Then there is If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything, which is a show about spirits and paranormal among us, as well as the unexplained and the spiritual. Subscribe on Spotify to get the 3 previous seasons and the current 4th season, which is going right now. And last but certainly not least, we have David Levine in the Whiskey in My Ring podcast, where David talks to people and that he finds interesting and gets into the really gets deep in the weeds with his guests. And as we say, David does the things that we won't do. And I'm waiting for it to cease and desist for saying that.
It hasn't happened, so that's okay. So, so it is excellent to see the both of you. Thank you for spending some time with us this evening.
Always a pleasure.
Oh, I think more for us, but it's like I was telling them before. I can't wait to get down there. I am really excited for this year. Sorry, Fred, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I just said awesome. What is this the 6th time we've been on together, Adam and I?
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Yeah,
could be. Yeah. I know we've done gone back at least 4 years, if not 5 on here, something of that nature. I'd have to go back and take a look, but yeah, right in that ballpark. Now we have had you on other occasions, maybe cocktail evenings or something.
Last year I was ringing people up while we were doing this.
Yes.
Too.
Yeah, I remember that. That was awesome.
I'm not doing that tonight.
It was kind of impressive. No, go down. Two more shelves. 2 more shelves. There you go.
I have to admit, acting, because I never worked that hard. Never.
Well, I think you guys described Adam both with the words unexpected as well as spiritual. So, when you described earlier, so he's Madison's spiritual spirits guru.
Oh,
even though he doesn't live here anymore.
Yeah, not anymore.
Well,
what happened?
For those watching, and I hate to break any hearts, but I no longer at Star Liquor in Madison. However, I do fully recommend people go visit there when they're in town. It still gets my hearty endorsement. Go bother Erin, who works there. She's excellent, and she will be bothered if you tell her that I told you to bother her. So that would be great.
Awesome.
That is. So for those people who haven't seen it before, how did you guys come up with the idea for Distill America? We don't have to go super in depth because most people I think have seen it, but for those who haven't, who are just joining us, how did you guys come up with the idea for Distill America?
Well, I'm going to let Adam explain it because he may actually have the correct story. Mine is probably embellished and sits at about 71% accurate.
Well, I've never been accused of embellishing anything in all my years, and goodness knows my stories don't get better as time goes by, but that's okay. We'll see how it goes. So it started back in the pioneer days when people were crossing the no, I'm just kidding. Actually, it came as a multifaceted thing. I had been working at Star Liquor at that point. Let's see, for a while. I guess I'd say I'd probably been there for about 5 years when we first came up with the idea. And Fred and I used to always attend, along with some other people from Madison, used to always attend Whiskey Fest in Chicago. And we would go year in, year out. We would go to the VIP hour beforehand. We'd make sure we studied that, or at least I did, made sure I studied that Whiskey Advocate magazine, and I would know exactly where the most expensive scotches were so I could hit them first. And then you always got to make sure you ask those guys what's under the table. This doesn't happen at Distill America, of course. There's special treatment like that. And anyway, it was just a great time. It was a wonderful learning experience. It was a chance for a lot of the real enthusiasts that were in Madison at the time to get together and drink some really good booze. The only problem with it was that it was in Chicago, so that meant we had to have accommodations. You had to get tickets, and it was always really packed. It was a very crowded event. And at the time, we were doing kind of semi-regular spirits tastings through Star as well. We had done Steve McCarthy from Clear Creek had come out. We had done that as a sit-down tasting years ago. We had done a tequila and mezcal tasting at Pasquale's on Monroe Street, where we had Ron Cooper, who was the man from Del Magay, was there. And, these were just fascinating events. And then one year we decided to kind of model ourselves after the Whiskey Fest. And we did an event at Fife's Corner Bistro, which is the restaurant is no longer there. It's now
it's now a place called the Turnkey.
There you go, the Turnkey on East Washington Avenue. And they had a little meeting room upstairs, and we kind of took that over and we lined the walls with tables. And that was a bourbon versus Scotch event. Well, that following summer, I was at the Great Taste of the Midwest, which Fred has long been an organizer of, and he probably got me my tickets, frankly, which was always awesome. And it was really hot that year. It was 95 degrees outside, like 80% humidity in August. We were all just dying. Like the last thing you wanted was another peanut butter or fudge stout. You wanted to find, the lightest lager you could and go sit in the shade somewhere. And I finally, after walking around for a couple hours, found a piece of shade that wasn't spoken for. And who comes walking up to me at that point but Fred? And he looked at me and he said, Adam, do you think an event like this would work, but with spirits, with hard liquor? And I looked at him and I said, Fred, it's funny you should ask me that, because Jerry and I, my old boss at Star, were talking about this in the store not a week ago. And I said, why don't you guys get together? Because Jerry, he was the boss and he was going to make the decisions. And Fred, definitely being the idea guy that he was, always got along very well with us too. Mm-hmm. Why don't you guys sit down and figure out if it's possible? So I don't know, maybe a couple weeks later, you guys had a meeting. I remember I was working. You guys were down in the basement. I was up behind the counter. And it probably was about an hour that you guys were down there, if I remember correctly. And you came walking up and you said, we're going to do this. And we spent a solid year working on it with no idea other than having the baseline of we want to kind of model it after Whiskey Fest, where it's a table-to-table event rather than a formal sit-down event. That was really our only plan the first meeting. And then we sat down and we said, how are we going to make this different than everybody else? How are we going to make this better than everybody else? And that's when the idea came up to do it with spirits made in the United States. Bourbon was really starting to hit its stride at that point. Scotch was still the thing. And single malt scotches took up probably half of that back wall behind the counter at Star, if you need a point of reference. About like behind Mike there. That would have been all our single malt scotch. And then there was maybe like 10, bourbons on the shelf at the time. Things like Booker's and Basil Hayden. I don't think Buffalo Trace was even in the market yet at that point. I know Four Roses wasn't, because we've had that discussion a million times. But sort of the single barrel, small batch whiskey was just coming out of Kentucky and really starting to get people's attention. One, because Scotch was getting hard to get your hands on. Lagavulin had done 18 months or something like that where you couldn't find a bottle in the state of Wisconsin. And also the prices were going up through the roof, because when that scarcity started, the prices started to go up. So I want to say Lagavulin went from about $55 a bottle to about $75 a bottle when it finally showed back up. And people said, hey, bourbon is right down the road and it's pretty darn good. And it really took off. And we sat down and decided to make it, at our first meeting, we decided to make it spirits from the United States. And we were so blessed that 16 years ago, craft distilling was just getting its feet wet. I think in Wisconsin we had 5 at the time, Fred? We had
4 or 5.
Great Lakes, Death Store.
Yeah, Harvey would have been there. Yep.
That's being made in Iowa at the time. That's right. So that was even, not 100%. There was Yahara Bay, there was 45th Parallel up north, and I think that might have been it.
Might have been 3.
First year, or at least when we were first planning it. So we decided to call it a celebration of American distilling, because goodness knows what you want when you're trying to market something is a nice, long, unwieldy name that you can print on a lot of things. And the rest is kind of history. We spent a year figuring out everything that could go wrong and managed to put on an event with about 25, 30 tables, maybe 300 guests that first year. And it's hard to believe that's 16 years ago. Every time you say 16 years ago, man, that's unbelievable.
Your event can drive.
Well, I mean, that was 16 years and 3 wives ago for some of us. So, no, I'm still married to the same woman. But one of the things that I always thought from day one, and I wasn't necessarily able to articulate it, was what always bothered me about Whiskey Fest, and it took a few years of us putting one on, is if you're a producer, the only people you need in the room are liquor store workers, buyers, barbacks, bar buyers, and folks that own bars and restaurants. That's all you need, because they're the ones that sell your stuff. The rest are great, but the problem with Whiskey Fest that I always had is I never saw myself in that room. Sure, I was a white middle-class guy, but even I was priced out very quickly. And this isn't to throw shade on an event like Whiskey Fest. But if the tickets are $350, it's on a Thursday, you got to take 2 days off work, you got to find a hotel, you got to park for $50 a day. That's without eating or drinking anything. And pretty soon it's $1,000 and I'm off work for 2 days. So who's in that room? In that room are people that the 1%ers are in that room. They're already buying this stuff. And the small producers are never going to get in that room. Back then, the booth fee was $1,000. 16 years ago. Now it's almost $7,000 to give away product. God. So nobody gets invited to it. And it just left an opportunity because they're leaving ideas on the table that they're not using. And our idea was, let's get the right people in the room. Okay, and let's price it so that this restaurant owner, this bar owner, these enthusiasts can not only afford it, but for other people, you can use it as an education event for your staff. So that's how then we were able to kind of parlay something that no one else was doing. So, and I will say unequivocally, I think we're the proudest of the fact that we did it in Wisconsin. Not that we did it in Madison, we did it in and for Wisconsin. So that is what we hang our hats on.
And you did point out this, Fred. I think one of the most important things when we first sat down and discussed whether this was something we wanted to do was we did want it to be for enthusiasts and for the trades. And it was so important to us that everybody that we knew wanted to go to something like this was able to do it. You know, we wanted to make sure bartenders got a chance to come in and try crazy things that they might not otherwise carry. They can go talk their boss into buying horseradish vodka or Hmong rice spirits, or, you know, the things that they might not otherwise get a chance to try. But we also, you know, Madison always had kind of that built-in base of enthusiasts that we knew were there because of the Great Taste in the Midwest, the Madison Homebrewers Guild. Fred used to have tastings at his house. In fact, I'll tell you a story. The first tasting I ever went to at Fred's house, it was a single malt Scotch tasting, and it was is the high-end bottle worth it tasting.
Yep.
So we would taste the 18-year-old Highland Park next to the 12-year-old Highland Park. And Fred had this great tradition where they did a raffle for the leave-ins in the bottle at the end. And I won the first one. He pulled my name out for like a 27-year-old. I can't even remember off the top of my head. I might still have the empty bottle somewhere, but it was a great 27-year-old Kaolila. And it was from like
Nice.
Signatory or one of those bottlers. It wasn't a regular bottling. And everybody in that room hated my guts because I was the only one in there that wasn't actually a member of the Homebrewers Guild. This guy, right? I just took the bottle.
Is the first and last time Adam was invited to one of those tastings. So,
We're real mad for that sort of thing.
but no, it's that notion of how do you put an event on that is high enough brow but also low enough of brow that you hit that sweet spot in the middle. And I think last year and the year before when we put it outside, I think we might have caught our stride and kind of defined ourselves as not only different, but a whole lot more fun than other events, not because they're not fun, but it's like we can do something a little bit different. We're going to put 700 or 800 ticketed people, and then you add a couple hundred more, all the other people volunteering, the people behind tents. We could put 1,000 people outside and cross our fingers. Okay, let's make it less stuffy. Okay, because that, I think when you do it and you make it visually understandable, there's a lot of people I know that are never going to go into a ballroom, okay, and dress up and ask questions because that's not their thing. So I think when those people can dress up, they want. You're going to be outside in Madison. It might be 40 degrees. It might be raining. It might be snowing. But last year we were all in, short sleeve shirts and shorts. So
Yeah, terrible sunburn last year for me.
right through all your hairs.
I brought up the sunblock right now, just so I don't forget.
And to me, it's how do you demystify an event like this and be able to laugh and have fun? Okay, because it's not about getting gassed. It's not about what you can taste. It's not about all the cool shit that you can put in your glass. It's about that, but it's primarily about A, did you learn? And B, did you have a good time with your friends? Okay, that's where we're trying to set a very different bar. So, and if we achieve that, then I think we're okay. We're in the sweet spot.
Well, I think you got going outdoors. I think you did hit a little bit more of a relaxation zone with people, or just it in general. Not that Edgewater wasn't good, but the ballroom does have a certain feel to it. Not that people there showed up, and some people did, but the vast majority weren't showing up like you're dressed to the nines, like you're talking about in some of the things. And when you're going to something, and like you said, you spent $1,000 showing up, and you showed up and you're like, Oh crap! Did they have like one of those closets where they rent a fucking jacket or some shit? Like they give it to you when you're like the Friars Club. Like, I forgot my jacket. Do you have a jacket for me? Like, I'm feeling really out of place here. But no, I think that hit a really nice kind of in between part for it. So I think that's nice.
Yeah, I think I wore a suit the first 2 years, and then after that, the room was just too crowded. That first year we did it in the park when the Edgewater was torn down, and it was so hot in that room. It's funny when you think about how hot it was last year and got sunburn out there in the 85-degree day in May. And I think it was always hotter when it was indoors because people just, you put 600 people in a room and start filling them full of booze, they're going to start putting off some heat. And you could only convince the Edgewater to open those doors and let that February air in after the temperature had gone up.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the first year that we got stuck, caught with our pants down and the room got too hot, we asked them, well, on the morning of the event I don't need you to air condition it necessarily, but I'm going to maybe ask you to air condition it during the event, but you have to turn the heat off in that room, starting at 8 a.m. We need to drive that thing down to 60 as quick as possible. And then don't ever listen to anybody. Don't listen to anybody that's too cold because nobody else is too cold.
Well, we got the Edgewater. You can go upstairs. You can change. That was a nice part about it. I'm hot. Well, I'll be back.
That's right. I'll be back.
Wardrobe change.
No, you might miss something. I got to tell you, I think the other great thing about moving it outdoors is that we moved it to earlier in the day. Mm-hmm. And I do think that sort of changed the atmosphere of the event. Not dramatically. I think people still have as much fun. They still sort of attack it, for lack of a better word, with the same gusto. But, starting at 1 and 2 in the afternoon instead of starting at, 7 at night, it just leads to a different mindset. And, you can have plenty of time to go out afterwards, so you don't have to feel like you need to nail it quite so hard. It's easier to go right from lunch to the event sort of thing. Breakfast, lunch, fill up. Drink a lot of water. Hey, hydrate, because it might be 85 degrees again this year. And put on sunblock and wear a hat. If you've got a solar panel up here, like I do, make sure you got your hat on. You're going to regret it. But the moving it to earlier in the day has really even made it seem a little less formal, and I really enjoy that.
Mm-hmm. And I think people don't realize, because most people that drink don't organize. It's just that notion of thinking things to the other point. To when you're in year 16, you've thought about a lot of things, but it's what else can we do is always the question. And I think being able to put it on in the middle of the afternoon and pump the brakes a little bit shortens that pregame window for a lot of people.
That's true.
And that was very intentional. I mean, there's a lot of people that bottle share, but not even close to a healthy percentage. There's people that just show up. Okay? And 3 hours is plenty of time. On a GA ticket.
Oh yeah, exactly. I always loved the VIP because you'd get in, you'd get that first hour, and to be honest, there was a point before where I'd be like, I can take a break for a minute, or I should take a break for a minute, because there's a big difference between 100 or 200 people going around a booth versus 600-700. Right. I'm like, your wait time is decreased.
Yes.
Well, with it being spread out outside, though, you're walking around more, you're doing more, and you're more active, and so I think that helps. And then also, when you went off to go get a bite to eat, well, it was at the other end of the field. Well, you got to walk the length of the field. Good, because you should go walk the length of the field, and get some water and stuff while you're at it. So I thought the layout and everything was nice.
Thank you. It's going to be similar, but with additional standalone tents.
So you said there's going to be some more vendors. Can you say, or more distilleries? Can you say who's going to be there?
I don't want to say because I want to make sure everybody reconfirms again this week. But what I do want to say is that we have been the fundraiser for the Wisconsin Distillers Guild for over 10 years. And I just got to the point where we needed to message that differently to them. If we're your fundraiser, then my expectation as somebody in the industry is that everybody's there that belongs to the guild. Okay. You do one thing, it costs you X small hundreds of dollars, 2 Benjamins, and you get a table and you reap the benefits of the one fundraiser you've done. And I think that allowed us to jump numbers. And I also think sitting on some of those mid-tier distributors and asking them to really this year, I need you to hit 100% on all of your people that qualify definitionally at our event. And I would say 3 of those went from 70, 80, 90% to 100% of their people coming in this year.
Very cool.
And that felt really good because we've got a lot of distributors in Wisconsin, by and large. You could say spirits is distributed by 3 big ones, okay, and 4 or 5 more. And it was always the 3 big ones that we were relying on. And then now this year, we've gotten the 4 or 5 more to pay more attention. So and to me, that's a win for the state of Wisconsin. Okay. We can all be prouder of what we're making if we're all more available to try it and judge it and talk about it. So, and I think every year, I mean, we're already there in beer. I mean, there's beers I don't like, but there's very few beers that are poorly crafted in the state of Wisconsin. And we talk a lot of shit about how good our beer is, rightfully so. And every year we get better in craft distilling in this state. Every year the needle moves. And I couldn't be more proud of being the premier event in the state of Wisconsin to promote that. So,
and every year we do get better at craft distilling, and every year we get better at telling people about it too. People around the country, I've traveled a lot, and I'm always surprised at some of the bottles you'll see. I was in Oklahoma a couple of weeks ago, and frankly, I didn't see a lot, but I didn't do a lot of drinking in Oklahoma. But, when you're traveling, you see that this is a thing that's happening we always believe, and Jerry used to say it, that Wisconsin should be the hub for this kind of thing based on, one, our reputation for enjoying our cocktails and spirits, 2, our access to the raw materials, the wheat, the corn, the cranberries, all apples, pears, all the grapefruits like that. There's just anybody that's not trying in Wisconsin to do something that really celebrates what we have here is missing the boat. And, that's something that's just everybody's got their pride in what they make. And you know what? Most of them, like Fred said with the beer, most of them deserve more kudos than they give themselves because the products are fantastic. Right. And that's true from all over the country. But, you think about, I kicking myself because I can't think of the guy's name, Fred, but the kid from Sun Prairie that was there last year with the brand new product.
Oh yeah, a Wilden Distilling. Yeah, and he's doing single malts. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, I had never even heard of the guy, and I'd been in the business for 25 years at that point, and he was so new. And then I went over and tried his product, and he was so excited to be there, and he was so happy with the response that he'd gotten. Mm-hmm. That's the reward for us, is that you see these guys and you go, Madison's not a town that's all full of guys doing shots of Jägermeister at 3 a.m. Now it is that. That's not only. There are a lot of people who care. And there's a lot of people who are interested in what you're doing. And there's bartenders with crazy cocktail programs. And there's enthusiasts who just got to have everything that they see that they think is interesting. And, there's guys like me that just like to try new things and experience new things. And boy, that'll never get old for me.
No. Well, I think for a lot of those places, I think it's a perfect place to pitch something coming new to the line, but more kind of your experimental stuff, get a gauge on something you were excited about, but where do I think Dave Slapper did that with like his honey gin, where he had like 3 or 4 different cut points or blending points, and then he's like, where do you like it at? And I'm like, you know what, that's neat to be a part of the process and something like that. But then after you give your opinion, you come back at the end of the day. So what was it? And you're like, oh, I'm in the bottom third. Damn, you know. Like the 8 other people I was with really liked it that way, but everyone else was over here like, huh, you know. But I mean, that's almost, that's like, for me, that's real marketing and feedback that you might not get other places. Even if you're at a bar handing that stuff out or pouring there, some people might not be as open to just give their honest opinion, or might be more hesitant about it. I think where at an event like that, you're like, someone asks you, what do you think? I'm like, yeah, what if it had more of this? And it sounds dumb, but all of a sudden you start talking someone into a new product. You're like, ooh.
I guess, you know, after about the first half an hour, I pretty much love everything and everybody. So
Sign of a good event.
I can't go over just that we're more in love with everything and everybody, but pretty quick.
He becomes Smiley Van Casey very quickly.
I tell you what. It's one of the things I think about, and I was thinking about it while you were talking there. I couldn't even pretend to list off the number of people that debuted their product with us that were from the Madison area or Wisconsin in general. I mean, you can run down the list of names, but things like J. Henry and Old Sugar Distillery back in the day, he didn't even have labels on his bottles yet. He was literally slapping the labels on the bottles at his table while he was setting up because he had just gotten them back from approval or however that works. And, you know, Polo with the Your Low and Ian Lieberman with the horseradish vodka, which I always talk about. But, you know, that's forgetting dozens of names of people that debuted their product with us because it was a place for them to go to say, look what I did, try what I did. And, you know, most of them come back year after year after year after year after year. So
true. And that balance of big Kentucky, big Tennessee to small to mid cap craft, and then small craft. Those 3 tiers, I think, all see themselves there in the room, and that to us has been important since day one. You know, people will come because of big Kentucky. I mean, you'll see it happened. It happened 4 weeks ago in Lake Geneva. You know, an event that was a really nice first-year kickoff, the debut Wee Whiskey Fest, 200 people. 200 people all walked to Buffalo Trace the minute that the doors opened. And then we got them and we saw them 20 minutes later. The same thing's going to happen at Distill. People are going to go to Buffalo Trace. They're going to go to Four Roses. They're going to go to the big guys. And then they're going to find their way around the other guys. But inevitably, what you typically will hear over and over again is, hey, did you guys go over to the barrel whiskey table and try that frickin' seagrass? I never even had it until today. Okay, did you go over and try Eugene's, referent vodka? Did you go over and try the new thing that Dave's got with a cream liqueur? I mean, all those things come up later because people we're creatures of habit. We go right to the.
I used to love walking by Buffalo Trace's table when Tom was still repping it, and you just yell, "Hey, where's the Pappy Van Winkle?" And he'd give me the finger, and I'd just keep walking.
Right.
And then last year, he was pouring that barbecue whiskey, which when he told me about it, I thought, oh, what is this? And I tried it. I'm like, well, that's surprisingly tasty.
Surprisingly good. Yeah. Again, it's like one of those things. I didn't want to like Screwball. Okay. I didn't want to like whatever that barbecue whiskey's called. And it's got a weird, anybody know the name?
No, I don't remember the name. I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
But it's like, there's one, I will say unequivocally, I have yet to meet someone in production that wanted to like the Screwball product. I know 0 people in production that don't like Screwball. And it's because everybody respects it for what it is, because for what that is, it's a goddamn home run. There's no two ways about it.
The first time that discussion came up at Star, when Josh had come back from San Diego and had tried it, we all accused him of being on mushrooms when he tried it. We did. We're like, dude, you're crazy.
There it is. Curveball says Jeff Liquid Schwartz.
Or whiskey.
Liquid Schwartz.
I was in Milwaukee and I was at a bar. And I shot him a picture of the cocktail menu, and one of the cocktails was called Liquid Schwartz.
Jeff, you got to have a shirt made.
I am Liquid Schwartz.
I don't know. That sounds kind of disgusting to me, honestly.
Oh. But yeah, I mean, it's that notion when you put on something because of your love and your passion for it, and you have an amazing group of volunteers that don't take any profits out of it, you can keep the prices down and you can keep the conversations up. So it's that notion of how do you present something when you know full well that you're really bad at capitalism, but you leave all that stuff on the table to be able to provide an event that everybody has access to.
Well, and that's what I've always loved about it was the accessibility. It was basically, and maybe a little bit less, but like $60 to $100 from low to the high end ticket, and that's pretty affordable. Like just like you said, even looking at a lot of other whiskey festivals where starting off is $225, and you haven't done anything.
Right. Right.
In 16 years, have we raised our prices more than once? I don't think we have, honestly. We've added higher tiers, but I don't think we've twice. Okay, I buy that. I think our general admission ticket, I think we started at 55 maybe, and I think now it's 65. I don't know. I'm just rattling numbers off the top of my head, but, you know.
It wasn't a big jump.
If we wanted to get rich doing this, we would have, but we wouldn't have nearly as much fun, and we probably wouldn't be sitting here talking about year 16 at this point.
It also was very, very, very important for us to do this all above board and by the book. So we've got a $1 and $2 million rider on this thing. We've got it on general liability. We've got it on liquor liability. That's over and above any venue we've ever been at. Everybody in revenue knows that we're doing this. We pay our taxes. Everything is by the book. So it's continuing to be forthright so that this has a long shelf life and doesn't just die on the vine.
So coming up this year, what is in store for the VIP Plus ticket holder?
VIP Plus is going to be, and I'm very excited because I think when we did the session with Nicole Austin out of George Dickel, it blew people's minds when it was a subcategory, and it was one of the free ones during the event. That changed people's minds because the first thing she said to the crowd was, I am not here to talk about Flintstone vitamins. I know that there's part of our products that are mineral forward and have great minerality, but I'm also not here to shy away from that. So if you want to ask me about that, I'm going to show you those things that you don't think you like, and then I'm going to talk you through them, but I'm going to show you 4 other things that don't taste like that and things that we're working on that I have a personal hand in. So between Dickel Doug and Nicole, they are going to put on a killer event for those 80 to 100 people that got access to get into VIP Plus. And that's, to me, that's worth an extra 10 or 20 bucks, just time and talent, regardless of booze. And to be able to hear, what the operational stories are behind why they're putting out products today and why they're filling out lanes of the highway that Dickel had never done before. So that was a big one for us. We're probably adding, I think, like I said, 10 to 15 new tables. I did not order 80 tables like I ordered last year because I ordered 100. So, and I think we're going to use all close to 100. And I think people get confused. They're like, we only had 70 tables last year. So you had 70 distilleries, as we all know, because we've all been there. I think everybody's been there, right?
Oh, yes.
Yep.
So it's that notion of you can go up to a table and there can be 7 distilleries on that table. Okay. So it's hard to codify it. But tomorrow, Scott and I are putting everything together. We're putting everything on paper. We're going to have the same amount of big installations on the north end zone. Okay. And then we're going to have, I think last year we had 10 standalone 10 by 10s where people were highlighting. And this year, I think we're having 15, maybe 16 of those. Cool. So if all you did was 16 10 by 10 tents and 7 more of those, that's not a bad event right there. Okay. No. But then there's 60 to 70 more people under the big tables, big tents.
For the lucky people. who need that extra 60
That's
tables.
true. This year we're working on some silly ass shit that is just kind of fun and visually fun. And we're really trying to hit home with as many of the NA folks who will throw in and give away things like morning recovery and water bottles and hydration, energy drinks, all those kinds of things. Whatever we can do to get stuff in people's hands so they're also carrying that bottle.
Yeah.
That to me is super important as well, because then you've got something else to fill up. We're taking the role of water and hydration very seriously. We tried to book different machines and trucks that would do that for us, but unfortunately we didn't qualify. We're going to get them in for a price that we could afford from the Madison water utility. But the bottom line is we're going to try to message it better so people know where the water is, and we're going to try to refill all of those big, huge jugs with more frequency.
That's fun.
Yeah.
No, I like it. Sorry, I'm going to cut Mitch from mic off. Sorry about that, but it's I like the expansion to the field and what you expanding now, but you have a lot more space at the current venue at Breeze Field than if that thing were filled, I'd almost be intimidated. To be frankly, if you went out to the sides and then you even just you could have a row in the middle and another one in the middle, I would almost be afraid. I don't think it harkened back to my college days. Let's just say that to go through something of that nature.
True.
True. I really enjoyed the size of the event when we had on the lakeshore there. But I'll tell you right now that the constant worry that you were going to hear that big splash and somebody goes, "Oh no, Bill's in the water!" That was in my head from the minute we booked that venue until after the event was over. So Breeze Stevens offers a lot of positives. And I mean, to be outside is fantastic. To have that extra space, I don't feel a lot of pressure to fill that space, quite honestly. If we have experienced anything in the 16 years of doing this, it is always being in a place that was too crowded and trying to figure out how to make the most of the space we had. Now, if you can stretch your legs out, like you said, walk all the way down the other end, get some food, sit in the shade for a few minutes, have some water. Still got plenty of time. It's the best of both worlds for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So one of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that if we have an educational event as well, that it's well attended. So we've gone in hard with doing cocktail seminars. So Jay Henry and Dancing Goat will be combining on a cocktail seminar with two cocktails with our base products, maybe further afield products, and 2 Jay Henry products. Between our 2 folks that we each have hired who are massive in the industry in Madison, that'll be a great event. And then we're hoping to lock in a seminar from a whey producer of whiskeys and spirits to do it and back it with cheese. Okay, so when pairing whey with whey products would be another way to put it. And it's just one more way to not only get out of the sun, get some education. You're not missing drinking per se, but you're also hopefully getting a little bit of nosh and a lot more knowledge. So
those extra classes or seminars were always ones I found interesting, and I love the availability to go to it if you wanted to. If you were caught up doing something or something, you didn't have to, but it was always an option to go. And everyone I'd ever been to filled up. So
that's what we're hoping. I mean, it's in a sweet little spot. Like I said, it's air conditioned, so if it's super hot outside, that's a spot to be. And people are taking it seriously. I mean, people are prepping. We're prepping for it at Dancing Goat right now. Mariah and Evan are already talking about how they're going to operationalize and highlight our products and their products.
Will there be anything special from the goat that you can talk about?
Yes, we will have a plethora of both lineups. I think one of the things that we've done better this year. Thank you. That might have been one of our most awarded, if not most awarded bottles of 2023. So, and it's the difference between solving a problem the way a lot of people would solve the problem, which is if you're going to do a port finished whiskey, in that case, rye whiskey, then you try to source a barrel that had port whiskey and you get it to the back of your door 4 months after you ordered it. It's super dry. You have to rehydrate it. So what we just did unequivocally was we just bought port whiskey and hydrated our own barrels. So from the time that barrel and that port wine was dumped to the next barrel and we filled it with rye whiskey, wasn't 4 months. It was 45 minutes. So that's why that color is that color, and that's why it's so jammy like that. So it's that, and that lane of the highway, that kind of sine wave for the Dancing Goat, is that LTO lineup where we're literally answering the question, what do you have new? Okay, because that's the question you get at an event like Distill America is like, okay, let me see your flagships, but what do you have new? Do you have anything new? What haven't I tried? Okay, and if you do LTOs and you do one-offs and you're trying to continue to keep your flagships, that's, I think, a really nice way for customers to always feel invested in your distillery. Okay, it's like, oh, there's only 250 bottles for the state. I better get one.
I would love it if every distillery walked into Distill America expecting every customer to ask them, what haven't I tried yet?
Yep.
That
Absolutely.
would be the mindset that I would love these guys to have.
Totally. And that's what we're doing. And I think when 1, 2, 6 distilleries do that, word gets out. Okay. And people don't want to not react to that bar when it starts moving. So I think, you're either left standing and saying, oh, it's the stuff I always have, and I really like what I've got, and you should try it again. There's nothing wrong with that. But having 2 conversational lanes of the highway, one is your flagships, one are things that are going to go away and you're going to do something new. And if you have 3 or 4 of those a year, well, then, yeah, we've got stuff that a lot of people at Distill haven't had, might already be through the market, and things that we might have in R&D right now. So
it works. I bought that bottle in Wisconsin solely because I had it at Distill America.
Totally.
And also,
Yeah.
cheers to the AWOLDs because they were like, "Hey, have you had this?" No, not yet. Their booth had been really busy, so we hadn't stopped by. Get in line.
Right.
And then it was like, okay, well, this is really good. And then I went to Ace the next day and bought the bottle.
And see, that's I think customers think about value to dollar for themselves, but places like Star Liquor, Steve's Liquor, Woodman's, the Hy-Vees, Trixie's, everybody that carries whiskey in this city and spirits in this city, I'm hoping puts a little effort into not only telling people about us, knowing about us first, but then seeing a bump on Sunday and Monday, or at least the next week for people that live here, and seeing people actually coming out and purchasing. Because I can tell you right now, the thing that people talk about is by and large not whiskey, okay, at the end of the event. It's some weird thing, okay, like cantaloupe cream liqueur.
Yes.
Okay? That is not weird for the sake of being weird, but you're like, I don't know what to make of that because those 3 words I've never seen aligned that way ever.
Well, it's awesome.
I know cantaloupe,
Yeah.
I know cream, and I know it's supposed to be sweet, but I've never put those things together. And then you try it and you're like, so
That
by and large what people talk about. Pear brandy is another.
Last year,
Yeah.
the spice pear brandy was awesome last year.
Remember the thing?
Like-
Oh my God. We couldn't sell a bottle of hibiscus liqueur to save our lives. Distill America happened, and it was sold out in town for 4 months because everybody went and got a bottle the next day. I will say that talking to people on that Sunday after the event from the liquor store perspective is a little rough, but it was always a lot of fun. You guys come in and took the edge right off my day last year.
I remember going and trying to get the Wollersheim canned cocktails and being like, no, we don't have them. And it was like, oh, dang. Do you know who does? No. All right, well, fair. All right. Well, whoops.
And it's just one of those things. And I've told Tom this. I'm like, dude, respectfully, you nailed that.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
You nailed that. And there are things that surprise. And I don't drink a lot because I'm running around doing other things. But when I stop to really focus, I want to focus on something that probably I haven't had before, that somebody that I respect their palate has entrust me with go there. And that's where my event is. It's kind of those sidebar places where I'm doing something that is unexpected.
Yeah. Yeah, we went to two Woodmans. This is the morning after Distill America last year. Went to two Woodmans, 4 or 5 high V's, and a total wine, trying to get the cantaloupe cream liqueur and get the canned old fashions, which we did get the canned old fashions. Struck out totally on the cantaloupe cream liqueur, but I ended up getting those afterwards.
Go in the back and look for it was part of the problem.
Well, yeah, that was the guy who had it said he didn't have it and he didn't want to go in the back. But that one still, I mean, to this day, like we've talked it up so much, and I took a bottle of it. I went down to Iron Root Distillery a week and a half ago. And I took my last bottle down there because I wanted them to have that to try it. And of course, they're like, well, all right, let's start off with it. And they've got really, really good palates. And their first thing was, oh, and so then we went into the tasting and everything. It's like, okay, now you guys need to wreck your palate and then go back to that and then go have some fun. So, yeah, that thing is freaky. The third booth we stopped at was Blom Brothers, and my friend had tried their Hellfire vodka, and as soon as he did, he goes, "Why did I do that?" And then I said, "Well, let's go find natural spirits." Well, Dave was right around the corner. It's like, "Hey, Dave." and killed it 100%. It's like, Dave, we're going to come back about every 3 or 4 booths. We cool? He's like, we're good. And that's what we did all day long.
That's awesome.
Never hesitate at the table to say exactly what store is your product in, because the little guys, they'll know how many bottles are sitting on the shelf at Star or Steve's or Trixie's or Riley's or any of those places, and they'll tell you. So if it's something you desperately need to know, never hesitate to ask them, because the producers are way less full of shit than I am. So
that's impressive.
Get to the front door at that point. But yeah, never hesitate to ask, because they will know. And that's always been.
I mean, that's what we do on the production side, is we have to be able to answer that question. Where can you get it? Okay, so Dave knows, Fred knows, the people at Fred's booth know, the Henrys know, the people at Four Roses know where there's, maybe those more exclusive bottles might have been dropped. And I'll be I'll be a little clear too. There will be things that hit the Madison market this week and next week because Distill's going to be there. So don't hesitate. No consumer on the other side of the table sampling should feel hesitant to ask, hey, where can I actually get this? Because they'll direct you to the store locator on their web, okay? And you can call right from the field. And don't be shy about reserving a bottle. Tell them where you are, why you want it. If you called Star Liquor, Adam, from the field and said, do you have cantaloupe cream liqueur? And if the answer is yes, would you put a bottle away from me for me? You would say yes, correct?
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
No, but I would do it just to get you coming in the door. So, but that was me. I was terrible at customer service. I don't know if you guys know that about me. I'm a complete.
Adam be drinking it while he's talking to you on the phone. Oh, we just ran out. Pouring it all over himself.
And you know what's the difference between me as a clerk and me as a buyer is there would have been 4 rows of that going in, because I know those moments. I know my customer base pretty well. But yeah, no, I would have convinced you to come in anyway, and then been like, oh, somebody just bought the last one. And it would have found me. But I'm a terrible, terrible jerk like that.
But the other thing people should know, if you're coming in from out of town, is not only are we a great beer city, we're a great cocktail city. Okay. I mean, it's not just cocktails at 4 places anymore. It's not just cocktails at 3 places that call themselves cocktail bars. We've got 12 spots that are premier and 25 more that you might not even know, are great cocktail bars. And then you walk in and you're like, holy shit. And then you look at a cocktail menu and you're like, so don't hesitate to go out and spend a little bit of money in Madison.
I think that it being earlier lends itself to the going to Distill America, getting something to eat for dinner, and then maybe going out for a few more drinks or a cocktail, like you said, afterwards. I'd almost be asking, so do you guys have hibiscus liqueur? Have you thought about making a cocktail with it? Let's make one up right now.
No,
I always remember
that's how people sell bottles. That's how bottles end up on back bars. The more people ask for those products, and it's not just do you have it and then the conversation ends. It's, oh, you really should try that. I just had that across the street and I had it, and this is what I would think would be great with it. And it's local, and you don't have anything in that lane of the highway right now, or you're a Mexican restaurant. Why wouldn't you use hibiscus in 1/3 of the cocktails you've got in summer anyways?
Mm-hmm.
And my, reactions to that over the years were places like, Akavit was reborn to me because a bartender refused to make me a gin martini because he said, "You're one of the guys from Distill America. I'm going to make you a martini with Akavit." And I went, "All right, fine." Far be it for me to argue I'm out to dinner. And he made me, and I went, "Man, that is really good." And that was Nostrano back in the day, right? Van Hurlips, a bartender in a bar that are no longer in Madison. But there was places like Merchant, you would go in and say, "Well, I'm going to have that drink." And they'd bring me one of those little mini martini glasses, which, man, I always just took those as a dare, honestly. That was like, you just go start making another one right now. But this was at a Distill America meeting. I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it looked like he handed me a glass of orange juice. And there was nothing in it but booze. It was 85% bourbon, and the rest was also booze. And I remember somebody going, "Jesus, it tastes just like orange juice too." And then I had to leave my car downtown at the end of the meeting and take a can home. Those things. I mean, Madison has that, the cocktail scene, and the food scene is out of control in that city. If you guys, I don't know if anybody watching or you guys watch Top Chef, but they're in Wisconsin. They were there last summer. And they're showing it this year. And I'll tell you, Madison's food scene has never been better than it is. I mean, there's something for everybody. You can have any kind of food you want, and you can have way too much of it. And it's ridiculously accessible compared to a lot of cities, because it's not a big city.
It's actually what Adam wants to say is it's not even a city. It's a big town.
Even better too.
I remember last year, personally, my favorite food in the world is a cheeseburger, but the food I could not stop talking about was rice porridge that I had across the street before the event. It was one of the best things I've ever had, full stop. Yeah. And it was just like, oh my God, I'm planning on going back this year for the rice porridge.
Yeah, that's what the university does for a place like us is we get a deeper, wider group of ethnic restaurants that will not only go traditional, but go fully off the rails and do non-traditional from within their own country. I mean, how many other towns of 200,000 have 3 Nepalese restaurants? I mean, that's just it.
You get real chicken feet at the Szechuan restaurant. You don't get that in cities our size in the upper Midwest. And I'll tell you, we had our Distill America dinner this year, finally, after how many years before we made it happen. We had it at the Harvey House, which was actually on Top Chef. But they've got a chicken place where if I hadn't woken up still full after our dinner, their fried chicken is supposed to be the best north of, the Mason-Dixon line.
Right.
So
we're lucky.
It's brand new.
Sorry, I might have to stop there now. I've been craving fried chicken. You go into streaks, all of a sudden it's like, oh, you have it, and you're like, it's not quite it, but it's almost, and all of a sudden you're trying to hunt it down.
Wisconsin will never have a shortage of fat people, so the food will always be good, or at least filling. And I would stand up and show you, but it's not that kind of show. So,
well, isn't it also Burger Week next the week leading up to it or something?
Yes, it is Madison Burger Week, and it's not like Restaurant Week. It's just everybody leaning in hard on different riffs on burger ideas. So that's not a bad week. Okay, I think we'd have far fewer takers if we had Rice Porridge Week. Okay, but we have Burger Week. And then all the kids come out, and they're downtown having dinner. but it's not just, it's downtown, it's east, west, all the burbs, all that stuff. So you get all the restaurants from a place that you don't even think makes burgers and doesn't. Okay. We had a place called Beer Rock, which makes German beer rocks, which are basically like a German Austrian empanada.
Yeah.
And they win Burger Week.
Light.
So I mean, it's weird, and it's always people take food, fun, beverages pretty seriously in Madison, which is, if we get known in this city for great food, great beer, great whiskey, great spirits, great cocktails, I don't think that's anything to be shy of. I did remove one comment on Distill America's website when we posted something last week, and she said, alcohol is nothing to be proud of. I'm like, why are you on our Facebook page?
Yeah, right.
I don't understand. Respectfully, I don't understand. I just delete that comment because it doesn't mean anything. It's of no consequence. So
Yeah.
Respectfully disagree.
right. Well, I'm from Chicago. I don't do things respectfully a lot of times. Mostly driving.
Everyone was we're extra nice to people, but then we just don't. We shove them out the door.
Mm.
That's what snowbanks are for, eh?
Well, I'm sipping on apparently a little.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
One of these, just
One of my favorites.
a little brandy here.
It's really good.
It is very good.
It's very good.
When Fred would come into Star and pour that when I was working, we could empty the shelf every time.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, for a price point, for what they're making, and what people in Wisconsin use brandy for, it was shocking, honestly. As a retailer, it was shocking how long it took for somebody to make a brandy that was there for what people in Wisconsin use it for. You're already got to twist their arms to get them to not buy Corbel. But when you put something on the shelf that is in that price point and the quality is that much higher, and you know what? Maybe I'm not looking to have sit around and sip it in a snifter by the fireplace, but maybe I am looking to muddle in some orange peel and some cherries and some sugar, and you go, man, now that is a brandy that is built for that. And if the ingredients in your cocktail stink, your cocktail's going to stink. That will not be one of those.
That's
Right.
true.
We're just hoping that we give people a Wisconsin version, a Wisconsin riff on a great brandy that just screams Wisconsin. So,
Yeah.
and you had the Barons, right, Pat?
Oh, I've had it a few times.
That was really good.
It's good, and my girlfriend loves them, so I don't know how many bottles are coming back with us,
Nice.
but it's going to be more than one. So
Nice.
Enough taking
Nice.
Charlie to visit.
And after having it, I think it's a wonderful comparison between the two products. I was gonna say, and then time and age do neat things. I was gonna say it's a wonderful example. It really is. If someone wants to see what stuff can do, it's fantastic.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, one is very much a product that I think wine drinkers lean into
Mhm.
hard. Okay, I think the Dancing Brandy can be a little confusing for a Wisconsin eyeball because it's not as dark as what people are used to seeing in a bottle. But the Barron's Brandy ticks all that visual, taste, smell. It makes it cocktails well at 90 proof. So I mean, that's just and if we can make Wisconsin's preeminent brandy and kick really hard at the shins of big brandy, that's not a bad place to be. So,
Really not.
Yeah.
and you make people, if we're talking, because we talk about it, like I said the second time I'm saying this, if we're talking about things like, Wisconsin's brandy and we're proud of it, and Wisconsin's whiskey and we're proud of it, and Wisconsin's gin and Wisconsin's fill in the blank, and we're telling our friends from out of state, or we're telling our friends who might not have as good of a liquor selection up in Merrill, Wisconsin, or Rhinelander or whatever, then we're talking positively about the industry with Wisconsin, and that's a really cool place to be.
Well, and I remember being early on in this event and being at supper clubs and asking for a Rehorse gin martini, and they didn't know the hell I was talking about, 15 years ago. That is not the case anymore. You go to the Del Bar in the Dells, Those bottles are behind there. You go to any supper club, you're going to find some local stuff, and they're going to make cocktails with it. And that's the crowd, man. That's the crowd that Wisconsin got its legendary reputation from. And if you can win those people over, you know what? You can bring in the people from Distill America all day long, and we'll ask for hibiscus liqueur, and we'll ask for cantaloupe liqueur. But if we ask you for you got that brandy from Cambridge that I can have in my old fashioned, that's the big win, right?
Can you get that brandy with the free bobber because it's corked? You have that brandy that doesn't roll around in the bottom of the boat?
It's got a nice square bottle.
Who's that NASCAR driver? Where was he from? Oh yeah, Cambridge. Okay, now I know there's a distiller in there. I got some brandy. That's what I want.
So,
that's my bobber right there. And those are the people you want.
Yeah.
So I'm, like we were saying, I'm overly excited to see you guys in a couple weeks and just take in the event as usual. I do see we're running you a little over an hour. We'll try not to go over that too long with too many people because we appreciate the time that you're sharing with us. Apparently Shannon is concerned if you're going to have corn at the event. That's a whole.
I'm confused. I mean, there's bourbon at the event, so I believe there's already corn.
Well, edible corn, as in on the cob.
As in on the cob. Adam, do you know?
I have not been in charge of the menu this year, but
okay,
corn on the cob sounds great to me. Although
I'm sure we could find a corn place, Shannon.
Yes, we'll find you a corn place.
Yeah,
we can find you a street corn place for sure.
Street corn. Now you're talking.
By the side of the road. But you know what? Come back in August and you can have all you want. When is Corn Fest in Sun Prairie? You'll come back for that.
First week in August.
Yeah.
I already have a standing task to bring Iowa peaches and creams corn to Shannon when it comes out. So,
is there is there a really big like in Illinois it's Mirai corn, okay, and those guys are, and in Wisconsin it's Alsom's corn. Is there a spot in Iowa where everybody talks about that one guy that's got that one thing?
Grimes.
Okay.
Yeah, the city of Grimes. It's like you go places and they'll be like, but it's Grimes peaches and cream. And in my experience, yeah, overall as a whole, it's better.
Okay,
but you can always get some good stuff.
I can't tell you. I know so many people in Wisconsin that will still after tonight go nameless. But how many times I sat at somebody's house in college and they just stole field corn and tried to pass it off. Adam has got his hand raised.
Yeah.
Guys, you don't understand that there's all different types. This is for shit. This is for animals.
The field corn must just be around the edges. So we went really deep into the field. We would get the sweet corn.
It's the good stuff.
Yeah. There's a reason the deer didn't eat it already.
I'm 50 now. I can tell those stories. Yeah. That was a long time ago.
Good Lord.
I had a lot of dumbass friends. I'll say that.
Yeah. Well, you're from the Dells.
Well, they'd say the same about me. So
we had fun. The end result wasn't what we wanted.
That's wild.
So, well, like I was saying, we appreciate you guys coming on, updating people what's coming on out on the 18th and what to expect, and just in general continuing to talk with us because we really appreciate you putting on the event, and yes. I love the style of the event because I haven't been to too many other ones that have that style and feel to it where it's more, yes, it's put on for people in the industry, but it's put on for the average person to attend. Bourbon on the Bank's kind of similar, one or two other ones, but there's not a lot that have a feel for the average person who wants to learn.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let me just say one more time.
The big thing is, I think our synergy with this podcast, because you guys are, you know, not wholesale, but your focus, huge focus, is on craft in this podcast. And as craft gets better, Distill America is going to continue to lean in hard on more and more and more craft. And when craft gets better, the bar rises, and then Kentucky and Tennessee start to throw in and say, maybe we should do some additive things. Maybe we should think about a different marketing situation. Maybe we should rethink our product line. Okay. Because I think everybody has to adjust everybody. And if we've become the group that's not just big brands as a festival, I think we're in a really good spot personally. I think we're in a spot where it's not only going to get better every single year, we're going to open a lot of people's eyes about that. And we already have. Okay. For the last 15 years, I think we've changed buying for a lot of people. And I think that'll do nothing but change, you know. And I think a lot of times people think, well, I'll put on a whiskey fest and I'll do it as a fundraiser for the Lions Club, or I'll do it as this. And they only lean into big whiskey. And it's like, but you put it in a town that already has 2 distilleries, but I don't see them here. Doesn't make any sense.
In the 16 years we've done this, we've built that trust with those people that do this. And they know that we're not in it for ourselves. We're in this for the game and for the fun of it. You know, like, man, say what you will about any event you go to, Distill America, the guy sitting next to me on the screen here and I want to try that new crazy thing that you made more than anybody else that's there. I promise you that. We've wanted that for the past 25 years, and we want it more than ever. And if I can leave everybody with a final thought, it's this: bring sunblock. It's very important that you're covered in sunblock. I was so sunburned last year. Make sure you show up full. Have breakfast. And then when you're done having breakfast, have brunch. And then when you're done with brunch, have lunch. And then come to the event. But don't drive to the event because there's nowhere to park down there. Find yourself a hotel that's either across the street or within a couple blocks. Get an Uber, get a cab, whatever you have to do. These are the things that are important. Stay hydrated all day long. Now, I looked at the weather forecast. There's a 45% chance it's going to be 66 and raining. But that means there's a 55% chance that it's going to be 85 and sunny. So stay hydrated, for goodness sake. It's important. And you'll have a great time. If you don't come, then
eat food. Eat before you come.
Have a great time.
Yeah. So that's basically, I said, like, sets the whole day. You get a chance to see a lot of Madison in one day, and it's all kind of centered around one focus, which is kind of neat. So,
well, I think when you're 16 years in, every year, I think the first year before we even put it on, it was a lot of questions and a lot of speculation from consumers who were even entertaining the idea of coming, and it was like, oh, there's no way that I will survive that. But then they come and you realize there is a way to survive that, and there's a way to do it safely, and there's a way to have a great time and to learn a ton of things. Okay. And then there's a great way to get safely to your next meal and safely to your hotel, or safely ensconced at home. I hear that, Adam and I hear that less and less every single year. Once people have come once, it becomes very understandable.
And I'll tell you, if we had 250 people there that first year, there's a very high percentage of them have been all 16 years, I want to bet you.
Yeah.
Because the faces are not hard to recognize.
Totally.
A couple hours at least.
Well, my friend that has come up to it with me, his wife has heard him talk about it, and of course, you know, anyone that isn't a spirits drinker and someone's talking about, oh, you go to this event, first thing everyone always thinks is, oh, you guys are just getting drunk. And of course he's always telling her, no. Well, she's coming this year because she's like, you know what, you keep saying how cool this is, and she likes Wisconsin, so she's coming up to it as a newbie who doesn't drink brown spirits, but she's actually looking forward to it, and I think it's cool. I think it's cool,
and there'll be so much for her to try.
Yes.
So many things.
Yeah. So, well, like we said, we appreciate you coming on, and we cannot wait to see you guys in person, because it's like I said, it's like the kickoff of summer for me every year now. It's like where things get started. So It's marked on the calendar for like 4 reasons.
Awesome.
So we can't wait to see you. Thank you very much for being here. And for everyone out in the channel, remember, it's not the size of the den that matters. It's the love of whiskey. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.